Welcome back to Tuesday's Thought. I am Jassett Crooks McGrowder, and I have two lovely ladies here with me, and we will be talking about entrepreneurship. So now that you've liked, shared, and subscribed, we're going to get into this conversation. So I'm going to have Claudine Wilson introduce herself.
You just did.
Tell us a little bit about,
Well,
just a little bit about you and your business.
okay, this is in my system. Welcome back to another edition of Tuna. So of course you know my name, Claudine Wilson, no stranger to the audience. Thanks so much for taking the time to tune in. In terms of my perspective tonight on entrepreneurship, unlike my co-panelists tonight, I'm actually going to be looking at a retrospective view back to when I was the owner and proprietor of Wilson Law Office, which was my law firm.
Yes, a full-on lawyer.
Yes.
Wow, I feel slightly underwhelmed. Hi, everyone. For those of you who probably don't know me, which is everyone, I'm normally behind the camera. My name is Crystal Bryan. I am the CEO and founder of Crystallized Moments, a photography and videography company. It's up and coming in terms of how much we're expanding it. So I do photography and videography, so normally I'm on the other side of the camera. Let's see how this goes.
Alrighty.
Yes.
And I have my own private practice as a psychotherapist. And so we're going to dive into a little conversation here. All right. So what inspired or motivated you to decide to become an entrepreneur? And either one of you ladies can take it, whichever one. Who want to go?
I think you should start with the law firm. Retrospect and bring us
So-
into the present.
Yeah, so taking it back, way back. So what inspired me, I think I can more speak to just entrepreneurship in general, like taking that route in general. So in terms of my inspiration, I actually had exposure to entrepreneurship through my dad, because my dad owned his own company. So as a child growing up, I kind of saw what it was like to manage, run, operate your own gig, so to speak. He was an independent contractor. So for me, it wasn't necessarily a strange thing. I don't think I planned that route. I think the other part of the inspiration was necessity, if I can say it that way. Just taking a different direction in my career. Things were going well. I think I had been out 3 years in practice by that point. I was employed, but just decided to take a different route, and the next logical thing was to put out my shingle, as they say,
Yes.
and launch my practice. So I think that would be how I answered that as far as inspiration.
All right. I think I'll go next on that one. My inspiration to start a photography and videography company is, it was always something I was passionate about, but at the same time, I didn't necessarily see entrepreneurship in my immediate circles.
Right.
Growing up. I'm still growing, but I liked the freedom that I saw others who had it.
Okay.
So my career choice was being a pilot, flying. I got my pilot's license, and then COVID happened. So there's a lockdown. I can't fly anywhere. So what else can I do? And thus Crystallized Moments was born. I went out how to explore, how to capture these events, because moments we see were really precious, and that's what we had to hang on to. So I wanted to be a part of creating it.
Cool.
So for mine, I actually went for a job interview. I had was not intending in starting my own private practice at all. I went for a job interview, and on the way back from the job interview, I saw someone at the elevator, and we just started chit-chatting. And she's like, "Oh, what are you here in this building for?" And I'm like, "Oh, I went for a job interview." And she's like, "Oh," asked me a few questions, goes, "You should start your own practice." And I was like,
Random
really?
stranger.
Random stranger, I guess.
Yes.
You're not. Random stranger. It's like, "Oh, you should start your own private
About
practice."
speaking life.
And I was like, okay, because that was not, I wasn't thinking that. And she goes, "I have a friend who has an office, and she's just down the street, and I could connect you with her." And actually, that's where it started. She called the friend, connected me up with the friend, and the friend told me how to go about, getting some contracts going and all of that. And that's how the business started. It was not planned, anything like that.
It just takes one.
And here we are.
Here we are. Here we are. Yeah, so that's how it started. Here we are, and
That's
we're
it
back.
there. Yeah.
I think I should probably add, just as I'm listening to you speak, I'm like, ooh, it might be a little bit of imposter syndrome here, because I'm actually no longer
No.
an entrepreneur in that space. I shut my practice down some years ago to return to employment, but it was like definitely a thing that I wanted to do. The business was going well. I enjoyed it, but it was just a season for me to go back in. And maybe I'll talk a little bit more about that.
Sure.
I
as
heard
we
you had
move on.
pens. I'm still waiting for a pen.
We gave pens to clients, Crystal clients.
So, next question: what has been the best part of your entrepreneurship journey to date, or it could be what you're looking forward to in the future as well?
Oh, that's a good one. I'll jump in on that one for sure.
Yep.
I think the best part of my specific company is to see the clients' faces at the end result. Like after a photo session, you deliver the edits, they watch the videos, they were just like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize all that was happening,
Yeah.
or you really captured that moment, and I will treasure it forever. And to see that sheer joy on their faces, or in text messages or emails, however it comes, voice notes, that's the best part. And I think I get instant gratification from mine, which it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
Encouraging.
Yes, and
no.
something I look forward to is just that how much larger can I build this? How many other people can get involved and
Nice,
feel this
nice.
joy?
Yeah, awesome.
Good.
Awesome.
I would, Crystal, you kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but the thing that really, really motivated me in that space was the freedom. It was the freedom, again, after coming out of like an office space where you're beholden to getting
in
the
and
work
clock out.
done, and sometimes not clocking out because
Exactly.
the work
You
just
gotta get
keeps
the work
going.
done,
He's
right?
going.
But it was the freedom of selection. I can choose, which clients or cases that I'm going to take on. I can decide if I'm going to be working on a Saturday, one weekend or not. I can decide how big or how little, and things like that. That freedom was probably the best part about it. But I think at the same time, if I'm honest, sometimes that same freedom of being like the boss it's almost like it can turn into captivity. Like if it makes
real
sense.
quick.
You have to get the work done.
Exactly,
Yes.
right? And okay, well, maybe if I don't
it
take this
off.
extra client, that's less income. The financial
Exactly.
statement isn't going to quite look as how I want it to
Listen.
look, right? And especially if you're in a sole proprietorship,
Yes.
if you don't show up to work, the
You're
work's
not
not
getting
getting
paid.
done. You're
That's
not
it.
getting paid.
That's it.
In addition, outside of just the money, there's other things that come with that. So yeah, I would still say it's the freedom, but there's a little caveat there as well.
And that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's a freedom. I can schedule my appointment for when I want to. I can also cancel my appointment and say, hey, we'll rebook for whenever. Like, that freedom of I do it when I want to. And, I don't have to, I'm not scheduled where when you have your regular employment, you have to go in 8:30 to 4:30 or whatever the hours are, right?
Yeah.
It's nice that I can say, oh, I don't want to work Saturday. So I'm not going to
I'll
work
take this one
Saturday.
off. I'm gonna go on
You know,
vacation.
I don't feel like going in, and so that's what I really love about it. It's that freedom, but at the same time, if you're not working elsewhere, you have to think about the money coming in. So, and
That bottom line.
And other things like, do I want a nice pension package that,
That's
you know what I
true.
mean?
That's
Like
true.
that's
Health and
matched by
dental.
some.
That's
There-
true.
yeah, because it's not always money for everyone, but
Right.
there's those trade-offs that you really have to think about.
Which takes me right into, I have my private practice, but I also work full time, and that's benefits from the full time. I know that every 2 weeks, that amount of
Coming
money
in.
is coming in, right? Which gives you even more freedom with your private practice because you're like, that there's a consistent
income
coming in, and the benefit package is huge, right? And if you're an individual with any kind of health issues or stuff like that, that's very important. If you have health issues and have to, get medication and stuff like that. So that and getting your education paid for, I like that part.
That's always good. Like going to school for free.
Must be nice.
Getting your, your seminars, your whatever conferences, having those paid for is very nice, because when you are an entrepreneur, sole proprietor, you don't get that paid
That's
for.
all you. Yeah.
That's on you.
I pay for those.
You pay for those.
I pay for all of those and the equipment.
For sure.
There you go.
You're responsible for building. You have to
Absolutely.
build your own
Pretty much.
infrastructure. So yeah.
Yeah. So what would you ladies do differently? Tell me something that you would do differently if you had to do it all over again.
Okay, I'll go. There's something you said, though, that I wanted to touch on as well, just before I launch into that one. And it was about kind of balancing. I think one of the other things, too, that kind of propelled my decision to go back into, full-time employment related to the business side of the practice. So I wasn't just doing, right? You have your vocation, whatever it is. It could be cooking or whatever.
Sure.
That's like the fun part, so to speak.
Yeah.
But as an entrepreneur, you automatically become
Yes.
HR, marketing,
Finance.
finance, right? And all these other
over
things that
everything you
that
want.
like the two are married together. So I think that like it factors in as far as the trade-off too. And that, as I said, on my own journey kind of fed into that. But having said that, if I had to do over again, I would definitely, and this might sound strange to some, I would scale down.
Yeah.
I would definitely scale down
Yes.
in terms of my upfront costs.
Okay.
Like,
okay,
yes,
yeah,
look,
yeah.
I went out and I got a Xerox, well, it was a photocopy machine. It was a Xerox machine back then.
The whole thing.
I got my contract. I was
Oh.
ready. I got the
Logo and
office
everything.
ready,
The paper.
stationery.
Oh.
And it was great. I was prepared. I was ready. I knew what the experience that I
You
wanted
were
to
in the
offer my
red.
customers. I actually wasn't in the red.
Oh, we
I
bless
paid
God.
for it. But looking back now, especially in like a post-COVID era, but even before COVID, I realized, you know what? Maybe I didn't need a fully leased space with a rented photocopy machine and with all these other things. There's a value to starting small or smaller. Again, it's great to have a great vision, but you don't have to like put it all out there. Like
Like
earn
at
some
the
of the money,
jump.
right? Like
For
build your
sure.
clients and so on. So
Absolutely.
that is probably something I would have done differently, especially in a day like today. Marketing is basically social media.
Yes,
Open a
yes,
free,
yes,
social
yes.
media account and there you go. So yeah, just in retrospect, that's something I would
Just
have
to
done.
jump on what you said, I went
Yeah.
the total opposite.
You just went super small.
I went rent.
Yeah, yeah.
That was my biggest thing.
Wow.
And it was not a lot
Rent?
because
Yeah.
it's just one office.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't do any of the big stuff, the stationery, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
It was like, just start out with my rent and then my little card from, that place that we all get most people in Windsor get their card from.
Yeah.
No advertising happening. But yeah, and that was it. My little card and whatever.
Perfect.
My little contract, I had my little office, and that's
Everything
it.
together. Yeah.
Nothing. Like, people would like, oh, we've never heard of you because I was not the
In the yellow pages.
Yellow
Yellow-
pages
oh,
or,
man.
or on any website or
Yeah.
whatever.
Anything?
Like, but then word of mouth,
Yeah.
right? Word
And
of
people
mouth
underestimate that.
Word of mouth is amazing because
For sure.
then it's like it spreads. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Right,
absolutely. I
Crystal?
mean, jumping off of both of what you said, I think I was somewhat in the middle. And if I'm looking at something I would do differently, I'm actually currently doing it now
Okay.
in like a rebrand process. I think in the beginning, for specifically at least my trade craft, all my photographers, videographers would know is to kind of niche down early,
Yes.
figure out what you want to shoot, but you don't know until you try a whole bunch of other stuff. So I think that trial period for me, I would have wanted to start it earlier and niche down and be like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. But then to think about where the market was in 2020 when everyone was jumping online, you had to jump at that point because now in 2023, I'm getting calls without even putting out advertising. Not that you shouldn't call, book. It's just putting it out there. But if I didn't jump in 2020 and start to build on that clientele, I wouldn't know what I liked. I wouldn't have the mentors I had to shoot with and figure out, maybe I don't like shooting that kind of stuff. But really fine tune what my colors are, what my name is, what my logo is, all those little things that we tend to think just appear. No, you have to sit down and put thought into it, because when you're branding your own business, especially as a sole proprietor, like you're branding yourself, like you're putting yourself out there.
Yes.
So to put a little bit more thought into it, definitely put thought into it, but just a little bit more to go the extra way, that quality.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's important to well, I didn't quite answer the question, what would I do differently? Because I figured back on what Claudine was saying.
So what would you do differently?
Well, my plan was to get a full-time job first. And then you have your full-time job going, things are settled.
Safety net.
Safety net, exactly, safety net. And then I would start up my private practice.
So you just did everything in reverse.
Well, the Lord didn't have it that way, and I started up my private practice, and a few years later, then I got the full-time job. But if I had it my way, it would have been full-time job, settled, and then private practice.
Nice.
And that's okay, and I think people need to be sort of empowered. Clearly, you have three different, very different types of, services, different timelines of starting, different approaches, and all that. So there's no one size fits all. Hopefully, that's the messaging.
You go on your own timing, and don't look at everybody else, because they're struggling with something different. So you got to look and work on what you can do better, and really just challenge yourself every day. You are your biggest competitor. That's something definitely I had to learn, for sure.
Yeah.
So one more question. What is your top tip for someone who's just starting out, or even someone who's been in the business for a while? As entrepreneurs, what would you say to them? A top tip for someone just starting out, or someone who's been in the business for a while that maybe they've plateaued, or?
A couple of things come to mind. I know you said top tip. I don't know if I have a top one, but something that comes to mind is it's important that, or at least to me anyway, it's important that you approach whatever it is, especially for the new people, like people who think that you want to launch into entrepreneurship, try to pursue like something that you're passionate about. Try to pursue your passion, because there's a big difference between, grinding and really putting in the work for something that you're passionate about versus something that you're less passionate about, or you kind of just did it because it seems to be trendy, right? Or you're in it for the money. When you're pursuing that purposeful end or objective, the profit will follow. I think it goes without saying. So try to do that. And then let me just tack on this top tip. I can't even talk. Top tip.
Ooh,
Get on TikTok.
promotion.
Top tip.
Get on.
It is.
It'll come back.
It's all right.
See, we've been cutting up and I forgot my thought.
I'll jump in while you're on that, that tippity top tip right there. I think one I would say is you have to be determined. You have to push through. There are going to be lows, like really low times, but you have to push through, because the sun will come out tomorrow. Yeah. Like, I know people say it like it gets better, but it truly does. And another thing for anyone, if you're just starting and you're not sure, do your research.
That was actually
You took my answer.
That was That's
your answer too.
Research.
She took my answer.
I'll say it differently.
It's so important, whether it's gear, whether it's which field you're going into, how much they make, what do you do, what to say, what not to say. That research is so important, and be prepared. When you get on there, even if you got to fake it until you feel the confidence, go in there like you own the place, and I promise you, it gets better every day.
Yeah.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say try to get information. That's the first thing. And there's various ways that you can do that. Obviously, you can go online, but try to, if not surround yourself, at least follow people that are in the space that you want to be in.
Yes.
Because you don't know how much you don't know until you realize how much you don't know when you're in the middle of it.
Exactly.
And if it, mentorship, even taking it from as I said, my perspective in the legal space, mentorship is critical. You're practicing daily, and there's going to be those times when you stumble, you fall, there's a misstep. Hopefully it doesn't cost you a client or a really big contract, but you have to try to immerse yourself in spaces, that have people that know more than you have because they have the benefit of more experience, and B, perhaps even have influences in the spheres that you might need to. And then on the other side of that, to Crystal's point as well, is just information about logistics, like laws. Can you even do, it might be in your vision, but is that even, is there a regulation about that? Yeah, or even if it's, not illegal, but is there a bylaw that controls a time of day that you can do those kinds of things? So really, really getting the information is something that I would recommend.
Absolutely. And if, like, for me, I belong to a college, so you need to know what you can or cannot do. Right. That could be your license, right? So very important. I agree with both ladies. Do your research before you jump into it. And endurance. Usually businesses don't just start and just go whoosh, and they're just great and everything's good and you're making money. I can't remember how many years, if it's 3 years or I don't remember.
Between
three to 5 years before you're really seeing that profit. So you have to be willing to endure, and it's not a quick boom and I'm doing great. I mean, that can happen, but for most businesses, that's not what happens. But if you endure, you do your research, and I love what Claudine says, surround yourself with people who are in that field. Like, I learned so much from people who are in the field. When the lady took me, when I rented that space from her, she's like, oh, you can be a provider for this company. And she gave me the information, and I applied to them, and boom, we had a contract going. So you have to talk to people, and hopefully you surround yourself with people who likes to share. Find the right people, because some people don't want to share because they don't think the market is big enough. But believe me, whatever you go into, the market's big enough.
Plenty of space.
Plenty of space, right? And when you you're now seasoned, don't be afraid to share.
For sure.
Yes, exactly. Give back sort of what was given to you, or pour back out some of what was poured into you. And I wanted to just also say to our faith walkers out there, particularly those of you who are either just in the startup stage or thinking about starting it up, be prayerful. Be prayerful.
Oh gosh, yes.
Get your direction. I remember, I'll just share this real quick. When I opened my practice, I recall the first thing I did in the space was I had an office blessing. So similar to a house blessing, but it's in the office. And I was asked, pastor asked, is there a particular scripture you wanted to have during the blessing? And I said Deuteronomy chapter 8. And if you go and check out Deuteronomy chapter 8, this was something that was given to me by an old mother before I left home to start law school. And it speaks to, when you come into, there's a quick synopsis, go read it for yourself. When you come into your wealth, when you come into your lofty place, don't forget to remember. Don't forget, okay? Don't forget God. Make sure that he's at the forefront. And so I
pay your tithes.
You better pay your
come on, like so
and your offering too.
It's completely connected. The two should not be disconnected. For those of us who are in the way of the kingdom,
for sure.
More power, and God bless those of you who are actually in kingdom specific businesses. But even if not, there's always room for kingdom possibility, if I can put it that way, in the role that you play.
Everything you do definitely has a space that you can affect your local church, your local organizations. Whatever you do, your talents and your gifts, everything you do, sow it back, give it back to God, because that's how your increase is going to come on top of increase. That's when you see the blessings start to flow. For sure. And one last tip for everyone who's thinking of starting a business in 2023 and beyond, social media. Yes, I'm of the age. You have to do it, whether you like it or not.
Social
Hell
media.
yeah.
Get the word out there. Start with a little video, even if it's not good. Talk about what you're offering. Put it on Instagram. Put it on Facebook. People still use it, believe it or not. TikTok, if you're up for it. And if not, find a young person or someone willing to help. There's always someone out there trying to gain experience, so that ties back to lending a helping hand. Help someone else build their resume, and you never know. That might be your first employee, and they may be more loyal than someone else that you hire with XYZ credentials.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think might have been what you said, Crystal, you know, with the increase coming from God, right? Looking at that, right? Paul planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase.
Absolutely.
So
For sure.
don't think that it's just your hard work. Yes, it's necessary. Don't think it's just your hard work. If God decides that it's not going to grow,
It's not going nowhere.
it's not going anywhere. So as faith walkers, we have to have God in all of it,
Yes.
right?
Jesus
Have to
at
have
the center of it all.
That's
Absolutely.
it. And you know, going back to pay your tithes, you can't give to God and lose.
Right.
You just can't. If you sow into God, you just can't lose. But
You're winning every time.
You're winning every time.
Even if
but
you don't see it.
know that He will give the increase, and don't let your business take away your time from God either, because you can get really caught up,
Consumed, yeah.
consumed
sure.
in the work. So don't let it take away your time from God. So, any final things that you want to say, ladies? It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it was
For all those who want to start on this journey, come on in. The water is a little rough sometimes, but the freedom is great. You know, we believe in you. We're praying for you, and we can't wait to see what's out there. And come to Rapha. We can use the business too.
and great mentors.
Yes,
That's been there, done
that's
that.
right here. Been there, done that, and
Yeah.
Still
survived
working
it.
on it.
Yes.
Survived it.
Survived it.
Survived it, and still
Survived
doing it, and
with
still
grace.
working
Working.
on it.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday's Thought, and the lovely lady Claudine